Tolerance is a very worthwhile ethic. It has never been one that has come easy to me. It has been something that I have tried to work at because it is worthwhile. But the truth of the matter is, I have little tolerance for tolerance. Let me give you an example or two of why it is so difficult for me. Let's start with Penn State. For those of you who may be unfamiliar with what's happened at Penn State University of late, they have had an unspeakable scandal there of sexual abuse of young boys by a very famous assistant coach, their defensive coordinator, Jerry Sandusky. Just a terrible, terrible thing has happened there, and it went on for decades. He was allowed to run free and molest young boys, it is alleged, with apparently the knowledge of all of the people in authority at the university. When it came to light and the very famous head coach of Penn State, Joe Paterno, found out about it, he said something that was so disturbing to me, I can't stop thinking about it even now. He said we should pray for the victims. Really? Is that what we should do? It seems to me that that's all Joe Paterno did when he found out. Well, no. He did something else. He took this matter to his boss, the athletic director of Penn State. Now, anybody who knows anything about Penn State knows that Joe Paterno really had no boss. Joe Paterno was the boss at Penn State, but he was satisfied to report to his boss that Jerry Sandusky was molesting young boys, and then to pray. I think that must have been his idea of what to do about this. Pray for those boys. Which brings me to another example of my lack of tolerance for tolerance. Because you see, it seems to me that all of these people in a place to do something about an unspeakable crime being committed against the most defenseless of us in society, they all had a tolerance for something they shouldn't have been able to bear. But they prayed. I bet they all prayed. That brings us to the Catholic Church. Now there's tolerance. They're very tolerant people. Religious people are always very tolerant. And they were tolerant for decades. And they had countless victims of sexual abuse. This is an amazing story, is it not? Priests, religious people, people of the highest ethical standards were molesting children for decades. They were sexually abusing children from Boston to San Francisco and countless towns and cities in between. And the church found the only thing that they could do about that was to play musical priests. They just would transfer them from one place to the other. Is that disturbing? I'm sure there are other words we could all think of, but my God, well, let's not bring him into it. But what did they do about it? What did they do about it? Pretty much the same thing that Penn State did about it, did they not? The popes, and there was more than one involved because it went on for decades, similar to the Penn State University situation. Decades. Now, cardinals and bishops and whomever else in the church reported, I'm sure, to the popes, and the popes chose to what? Just move these priests around like pieces on a chessboard. What did they do for the children? I bet they prayed. I bet the popes reported to their bosses, right? But what did they do? Everybody prayed. And what happened to these children? Nothing good. And so, this is why I have no tolerance for tolerance. Because what they did mostly was tolerated these unspeakable acts, this unspeakable behavior by people that they should have put down. They should have put this behavior down the moment they heard about it. And how many children could have been saved? Think about that. Tolerance. If you have an ethical dilemma, please write to my Dear Diva page at phylliskae.com/dear-diva, and I will post a response. Follow me on Facebook and Twitter.